The diesel engine outside wouldn't turn over. Third try, and all I got was that grinding whine. That means it's too damn cold. And the block heater gave up sometime in the night. 15 below, the radio said. My breath fogged inside the kitchen, even with the propane heater roaring in the corner. Coffee steam rose from my mug, the only warm thing in the room besides the wood stove smell coming off my work coat. I was reading cattle futures when Linda walked in with Derek Paulson, hadn't heard his truck, hadn't been told he was coming. Frank, Derek said, spreading papers across my kitchen table like he owned the place. Linda tells me you've been struggling with some of the ranch decisions. I'm here to help. My wife's hand landed on my shoulder, soft, controlling. Honey, we talked about this. You agreed Derek could review the books. I didn't remember agreeing to a damn thing. But Linda's perfume, something floral and wrong for this house, mixed with the leather smell from my gloves on the counter, and Derek's hands on those papers were soft as a baby's. Banker's hands. My own were scarred and cracked from 50 years of winter work. Behind me, hanging on the wall near the stove, was my grandfather's branding iron. I glanced at it. The Mercer mark, a century old. I didn't agree to this. So why couldn't I remember saying no? Derek left around noon, but his cologne stayed in the kitchen for hours. That chemical smell, like something sprayed in a department store. Linda made herself busy in the laundry room, humming. She'd been doing that lately, humming when she thought I wasn't listening. Cheerful? Too cheerful for December in Nebraska when the wind cuts through the barn walls and the cattle huddle in the lee of the equipment shed. I waited until she went upstairs for her afternoon rest. That's what she called it now, her rest, like she'd been working. My office was off the kitchen, really just a converted mudroom, with a desk and filing cabinets that dated back to when my father ran this place. The chair creaked when I sat. Everything in this house creaked. 100 years of settling and shifting, wood contracting in the cold. I pulled open the bottom drawer where I kept the important papers. Insurance policies, cattle sale records, the deed to the property, going back to 1910 when my grandfather homesteaded these 2,000 acres with a mule and a prayer. The power of attorney document was sitting right on top. White paper, crisp, new. The kind you get from a lawyer's office with all the official language about principal and agent and authority to act on behalf of. My name was typed at the top, Franklin James Mercer. Linda's name was typed below, Linda Marie Mercer, attorney in fact. The signature line at the bottom was blank, but there was a date, December 4th, 2 weeks ago. The furnace kicked on in the basement. The ductwork pinged and rattled, expanding with the heat. Outside, the wind picked up, whistling through the gap under the front door. I turned the paper over. Nothing. Turned it back, stared at that empty signature line, tried to remember December 4th. That was a Monday. I'd been checking fence that day. The northwest section, where the posts always heave in winter. Came home around 4. Linda had pot roast ready. We ate, watched the news. I went to bed early because I had to be up at 5 to break ice in the stock tanks. Had I signed this? The paper felt wrong in my hands. Too smooth, too deliberate. But my memory. Floorboards creaked overhead. Linda moving around upstairs. I put the document back, exactly where I'd found it, and closed the drawer slow enough that it didn't make a sound. Had I signed this and forgotten, or had I never seen it before? I was out checking the northeast fence line 2 days later when Cal Tucker pulled up in his truck. Saw him coming from a quarter mile off, his old Ford kicking up snow dust on the county road, then turning down the section line that marked where my property met his. Cal was 71, retired attorney from Omaha who'd bought the place next to mine 15 years back. Good neighbor. Kept to himself, but showed up when you needed a hand with branding or a witness for signing something legal. He'd known my father, knew what this land meant. He climbed out of his truck, breath clouding, wearing a thick canvas coat and a cap with ear flaps. His boots crunched on the frozen ground as he walked over to where I was standing by the fence. Frank, and he nodded. Cal, he didn't waste time, pointed east along the fence line. Did you authorize a boundary survey? I followed his gaze. There they were, orange plastic stakes. Surveyor's ribbon tied to the barbed wire, 6 of them visible, marching along the fence at regular intervals, bright against the white snow and dead winter grass. No, thought not. Cal walked toward the nearest stake. His gloves were leather, worn soft. He pulled the stake up out of the frozen ground with some effort, examined the markings on it. These weren't here last week. I ride this section every morning, check on my cattle. These are new. The cold was making my fingers ache inside my gloves. I flexed them. Could be county doing something. County doesn't mark boundary lines. Cal stuck the stake back in the ground, looked at me. Frank, these are 400 yards inside your property line. Somebody's trying to move your fence. The wind kicked up. Somewhere in the distance, a meadowlark called. Wrong time of year for it, but I heard it clear. Or maybe I was remembering summer, when they used to sing every morning. Who'd do that? I asked, though something in my gut already knew. Cal pulled his cap down tighter. That's what I came to ask you. Linda said the bank wanted to see us both. Just a routine meeting, she said. James Whitfield had some questions about the operating loan for spring. Nothing to worry about. The bank was in town, 23 miles on roads that hadn't been plowed since the last snow 3 days ago. My truck handled it fine. The heater blasted hot air that smelled like dust and old vinyl. Linda sat in the passenger seat, quiet, looking out at the white fields rolling past. She had her church purse with her, small but black with a gold clasp. The kind of detail you notice when you've been married to someone for 8 years and you're starting to realize you don't know them at all. First National Bank sat on Main Street between Ruby's Diner and the hardware store. The building was old brick, built in 1923 according to the cornerstone. Inside, it smelled like floor wax and paper. The heat was cranked up too high. My coat felt heavy the moment we walked in. James Whitfield was behind his desk when we got there. Big man, 50-some years old, wearing a tie and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Derek Paulson was sitting in one of the chairs facing the desk. I stopped in the doorway. Didn't know we were having a group meeting. Frank, Linda. James stood, gestured to the empty chairs. Derek's been helping me understand some concerns about the ranch operations. Please sit. The chairs were the kind with wooden arms and thin cushions. They creaked when we sat. Outside, a car drove past, its chains clattering on the icy pavement. James slid a folder across the desk. I'll get right to it. The operating loan comes due in March. Based on the cattle numbers from last year and the projected spring market, I think we need to look at restructuring. Derek's offered to help review the options. Derek leaned forward. His cologne reached me across the desk. Frank, Linda mentioned you've had some challenges keeping track of the paperwork lately. That's nothing to be ashamed of. My father had the same issues at your age. The important thing is having good people around you to help manage things. The room went very quiet. The fluorescent lights hummed. James was watching me. I haven't had any challenges, I said. Linda's hand found mine, squeezed. Honey, you forgot to pay the electric bill twice. And last week you couldn't remember where you put the checkbook. That's because you moved it. I didn't move anything. Her voice was soft, patient, the way you talk to a child. James, Derek and I have been discussing some options. A co-signature on the accounts. Just temporary, until we get through this rough patch. James cleared his throat. Frank, I have to consider the bank's interests here. If there are memory concerns. There aren't. Then we need to make sure the loan is being managed properly. You've been banking with us for 50 years, your father before you. I don't want to see this ranch get into trouble because of oversights. Bishricky pushed a document across the desk. This just authorizes Linda to handle the day-to-day financial decisions. You're still the owner. Nothing changes except who signs the checks. The paper had lines and boxes and legal language that blurred together under the fluorescent lights. My head felt thick. The heat in the office was oppressive. Linda squeezed my hand again. It'll make everything easier, I promise. I signed it. Right there. Didn't even read the whole thing. Just signed where Derek pointed and slid it back across the desk. James smiled. Good. That's settled then. We'll get the restructuring documents drawn up. Derek smirked. Just for a second, but I caught it. The doctor's office was 2 blocks down. Linda had made the appointment 3 weeks ago, she said. Just a routine checkup. I hadn't been to see Doc Martinez in 2 years. Last time was for a tetanus shot after I caught my hand on barbed wire. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and old magazines. A fish tank burbled in the corner. Linda filled out paperwork at the reception desk while I sat in a chair that was too small and watched. Tropical fish swim in circles. Doc Martinez called me back himself. 75 years old, still practicing, still making house calls in the winter when someone couldn't make it to town. He'd delivered Ethan 42 years ago. Knew every family within 50 miles. Frank, he shook my hand. His grip was still strong. Good to see you. How's the ranch? Good. Cattle doing all right in this cold? They're fine. He led me to the exam room. The paper on the table crinkled when I sat. The blood pressure cuff was cold. He wrapped it around my arm and pumped it tight. Your wife called last week, he said, watching the gauge. Said she's been worried about you. My heart kicked. Worried about what? Memory issues. Confusion. Said you've been forgetting things, misplacing items. He unwrapped the cuff. Your pressure's a little high. When did you last have it checked? 2 years ago, and I haven't been forgetting things. Doc Martinez made a note on his chart. The pen scratched against paper. She seemed pretty concerned, Frank. Said you've been having trouble managing the ranch finances. Oh, that's not true. Well, he set the pen down, looked at me, really looked at me. I have to make a note in your file that there's spousal concern about cognitive function. That's protocol. Linda asked about getting you tested. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead. The antiseptic smell was stronger now. Chemical. Wrong. Tested for what? Cognitive decline. Dementia screening. He paused. I'm not saying I think you need it, but I'm required to document when a family member expresses concern. The paper crinkled under me. Outside in the hallway, someone laughed. A door opened and closed. Is she trying to have me declared incompetent? Doc Martinez's face didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. He reached over and closed the exam room door. The latch clicked. Frank, he said quietly, is everything okay at home? I opened my mouth to answer. Nothing came out. I went to Cal Tucker's place that evening. Didn't tell Linda where I was going. Just said I needed to check on something and took the truck. Cal's house was smaller than mine. One story, built in the 80s practical. Wood smoke poured from his chimney, white against the darkening sky. His dog barked once when I pulled up, then recognized my truck and went quiet. He opened the door before I knocked. Figured you'd come by. Coffee's on. The kitchen smelled like wood smoke and something cooking, chili maybe. The kind that's been simmering all day. His table was oak, scarred and solid, with a green shaded lamp hanging overhead. He poured 2 mugs and sat across from me. Brought the document, I said, pulling the power of attorney from my coat pocket. Cal took it, put on his reading glasses. The frames were thin wire, perched on his nose while he read. Outside, the wind rattled the window. His dog settled by the wood stove with a sigh. This is dated December 4th, Cal said after a minute. That's what it says. But the signature line's blank. I know. He turned the paper over, held it up to the light, ran his finger along the edge. This paper's been handled multiple times. See these creases? Somebody's folded and unfolded this. And look here. He pointed to a faint smudge near the signature line. Someone put their thumb right there, probably while holding it for someone else to sign. My coffee was too hot to drink. I wrapped my hands around the mug anyway, feeling the heat through the ceramic. They expected you to sign it, Cal said. That's why it's dated. They had a plan. December 4th was the target day. But I didn't sign it. No, you didn't. He set the paper down. Frank, I need to tell you something. Derek Paulson dated Linda in high school, graduated a year behind her. I remember because my sister taught at the school back then. She said Derek was trouble even then. All talk, no work. Thought he was smarter than everyone else. The chili bubbled on the stove. The dog's nails clicked on the floor as it shifted position. Linda never mentioned that, I said. I imagine she didn't. Cal took off his glasses. I'm going to help you fight this, whatever this is. But Frank, he paused. We need your son. The words hit like a fist. Ethan, my boy. 42 years old now. Petroleum engineer down in Texas. We talked maybe twice a year. Christmas. His birthday, if I remembered. He'd stopped coming home after Linda and I got married. Said it was work. Said it was the drive. Said a lot of things that probably meant he didn't like my choices. He's busy, then I said, he's your son, and he needs to know what's happening. Cal slid a notepad across the table. Spring branding's in April. We always do it the 15th. This year, we're going to make it a big one. Invite the whole county, bank president, sheriff, county clerk, everyone who needs to see that you're competent and capable. He tapped the paper. That's your witness list. But first, you call Ethan. The wind howled outside. The wood stove ticked as it cooled slightly. What if he doesn't come? He'll come. I waited until Linda went to bed before I made the call. Sat in my office with the door closed and the desk lamp throwing shadows on the wall. The phone rang 4 times. I almost hung up. Dad? Ethan's voice, deep, surprised. Everything okay? Yeah, fine. The words stuck. I wanted to hear your voice. A pause. It's been a while. I know, that's my fault. No, I should have called more. Work's been crazy. We're doing a new drilling operation in the Permian Basin, and... He stopped. Dad, what's wrong? Outside, the house creaked. The furnace kicked on. I think Linda's trying to take the ranch. Silence. Then, what? There's a power of attorney I never signed. Boundary stakes on the fence line. She took me to the bank today with Derek Paulson. You remember Derek? Linda's ex-boyfriend, Derek? She never told me they dated. Dad, she told me. At the wedding. Said they'd gone out in high school, but it didn't work out. His voice changed. Got harder. What's he doing there? Helping her, apparently. They're saying I'm confused. That I can't manage things. Doc Martinez has to put it in my file now that Linda's concerned about my memory. Are you? Confused, I mean. The question hurt more than it should have. No, I'm not. But Ethan, I can't prove a negative. How do I prove I'm not losing my mind? You don't have to prove anything. I'll be there in 48 hours. My throat got tight. You don't have to. I'm coming. Don't sign anything else. Don't agree to anything. I'll be there Friday. Okay. Dad, I'm sorry I haven't been around. I should have. Just come home, son. After I hung up, I sat there in the dark for a long time. The desk lamp made a pool of yellow light on the papers scattered across the surface. Tax records, cattle receipts, a photograph of Martha, my first wife, tucked under the desk blotter where Linda wouldn't see it. Then I heard it. Upstairs, a floorboard creaking. The one right outside the bedroom door that always made noise when you stepped on it. Linda had been listening. The new vitamins showed up on the counter 3 days later. Brown plastic bottle with a white label. Linda set them next to my coffee mug at breakfast. What are these? Doctor prescribed them, for your memory. She was at the stove, frying eggs. The oil popped and sizzled. He called yesterday while you were out checking fence. Said these might help with the confusion. I picked up the bottle. The label said daily supplement, but there was no pharmacy name, no prescription number, just a typed label that looked like it came from a home printer. Doc Martinez didn't say anything to me about this. He probably forgot. You know how busy he is. She slid eggs onto a plate, brought it over with toast. Take 2 with breakfast every day. The pills rattled when I shook the bottle, small, white, generic looking. Linda stood there watching, waiting. I opened the bottle, tapped 2 pills into my palm. They didn't smell like anything. I put them in my mouth and reached for my coffee. Linda smiled, went back to the stove. I kept the pills under my tongue, bitter, chalky. Waited until she turned away, then spit them into my napkin. Wrapped them up, put them in my coat pocket. Good, Linda said, not looking at me. You'll feel better soon. After breakfast, I went to the barn. The pills went into an old tobacco tin I kept on a shelf behind the veterinary supplies. 3 days of pills. 6 total. Hidden where nobody would think to look. The barn smelled like hay and manure and cold concrete. My breath clouded. The cattle were restless, shifting in their pens. They knew something was wrong. Animals always know. I found the survey in Linda's car. Wasn't snooping. Her tire was low and I was going to fill it before she drove to town. The papers were sitting right there on the passenger seat. A manila folder with Mercer Ranch Boundary Survey typed on the tab. I opened it standing in the driveway. Wind cutting through my coat, hands going numb. The survey showed 2,400 acres. My property line moved east by 400 yards, right through Cal Tucker's pasture. The date at the bottom said January 15th, 2 days ago. Derek Paulson's name was typed as the surveyor, with some company I'd never heard of listed below. My grandfather's original survey, the one from 1924 that was filed at the courthouse, showed 2,000 acres. Exactly. The boundary markers were set in concrete at the corners. I checked them myself 100 times. This was a forgery. I put the survey in my coat, started the truck, drove to town. Ruby's Diner was packed for lunch. The smell of coffee and fryer grease hit me when I walked in. Every booth was full, the counter stools too. Farmers and ranchers and the courthouse crowd, all getting their noon meal and their daily dose of gossip. Linda was in a back booth. With Derek, I walked straight over. The survey was in my hand. Conversations quieted as I passed. People noticed. Small town, everyone always notices. You want to explain this? I dropped the folder on their table. Linda looked up. Her face did something. Surprise, then fear, then something else. Calculation. Derek just smiled. Frank, Linda said, what are you doing here? I found this in your car. This fake survey that says I own 400 acres of Cal Tucker's land. Derek picked up the folder, opened it. This isn't fake, Frank. I had this done last month. Professional surveyor. All the measurements check out. Bullshit. My voice was too loud. The diner went quiet. Everyone listening now. My grandfather's survey shows 2,000 acres. This shows 2,400. You're trying to steal Cal's land. Frank. Linda stood, reached for my arm. Honey, you're confused. Derek's trying to help. We talked about this. We never talked about this. Yes, we did. Last week. You said you wanted to resolve the boundary issues with Cal before spring. Her eyes were wet. Tears. Actual tears. You don't remember. Oh God, it's getting worse. Ruby came over, wiping her hands on her apron. Her face was concerned, pitying. Frank, is everything all right? No, everything's not all right. My wife and her ex-boyfriend are trying to steal my land. Linda put her face in her hands, started crying, really crying now. Derek stood up, put his arm around her. Frank, I think you need to calm down. Derek's voice was gentle, reasonable. Linda's been worried sick about you. We're just trying to help. I don't need your help. And an old farmer 2 booths over, Tom Henderson, been ranching longer than me, leaned over. Frank, maybe you should listen to your wife. Linda's a good woman. She's looking out for you. She's lying. Frank, that was Bill Morrison from the feed store. You're making a scene. The diner was completely silent now, except for the grill sizzling and a country song on the radio. Everyone staring, Linda crying, Derek holding her like she was the victim. Ruby touched my shoulder. Frank, maybe you should go home and rest. That's when something broke inside me. Ruby. Ruby, who'd known me for 30 years, who'd served me coffee 1,000 times, who'd been at my first wedding and at Martha's funeral. Even she thought I was crazy. You all think I'm losing my mind. Nobody answered. Linda sobbed into Derek's shoulder. The tears looked real. Maybe they were real. Maybe she believed her own lies by now. I put the survey back in the folder, walked out. Behind me, Linda's voice. I'm so sorry. He's been having these episodes. I don't know what to do. The door jingled when it closed. The cold hit me like a wall. My truck was parked on Main Street. The driver's side door handle was ice cold through my glove. I sat there with the engine running, heater blasting. The survey on the seat beside me. Everyone in that diner thought I was paranoid, confused, maybe incompetent. Derek was winning. Ethan's truck pulled into the driveway at dusk on Friday. I heard it from the barn, where I was breaking ice in the water troughs. That deep rumble of a diesel engine, different from mine, newer. The sound carried across the frozen yard. I set down the iron bar I'd been using to crack the ice. My hands ached from the cold, even through my gloves. Walked out of the barn. As Ethan climbed out of his truck, he was bigger than I remembered, broader, 42 years old, and he looked like a man who worked for a living, even though he wore a button-down shirt and clean jeans. His boots were nice. Too nice for a ranch, but he was here. Dad. We stood there for a moment, steam rising from the truck's exhaust. The wind had died down. Everything was quiet and cold and waiting. Then he crossed the space between us and pulled me into a hug. His coat smelled like truck interior and coffee. He was strong, solid. I'm glad you came, I said. Should have come sooner. Linda appeared on the porch. I hadn't heard the door open. She was backlit by the kitchen light, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Ethan, what a surprise. Her voice was bright, too bright. You should have called. I would have made up your room. It's made up already. Ethan let me go, looked at her. I called yesterday. You didn't mention it to Dad? Did I? I must have forgotten. Come in, come in. You must be freezing. Inside, the house smelled like pot roast. Linda had cooked, set the table, 3 places, like she'd known all along. Ethan set his bag down in the mudroom. I'll just take my things upstairs. I'll help, I said. His old room was at the end of the hall. Same bed, same blue curtains Martha had sewn when he was a boy. Linda hadn't changed it. I'd figured she would have by now, made it into a sewing room or a guest room or something that wasn't his. Ethan set his bag on the bed, looked around, the dresser, the closet, the shelf where he used to keep his 4-H trophies. Where's Mom's photo? He asked. Which one? The one that was on the mantel, the wedding picture. Where is it? I didn't know. Hadn't noticed it missing. There were so many small changes over 8 years. Things disappearing. Things moving. You get used to it. You stop noticing. I don't know. Ethan went downstairs. I followed. He walked through the living room, looking. The mantel was bare except for a vase of fake flowers. The side table, where Martha's high school graduation photo used to sit, held a stack of Linda's magazines. The bookshelf. Dad, where are all of Mom's things? Ethan. Linda came out of the kitchen. Your mother's things are put away safely. It's been 10 years. Frank needed to move forward. Where? The basement. Ethan headed for the basement door. Linda tried to stop him. There's nothing down there but storage. He opened the door anyway. The stairs creaked as he went down. The basement smelled like concrete and old cardboard and mouse droppings. The light was a bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. I followed him down. The boxes were in the corner. 4 of them. Taped shut. Martha's things written on the side in Linda's handwriting. Ethan opened the first one. Photos. Dozens of them. Martha's wedding dress wrapped in plastic. Her mother's quilts. A jewelry box. Love letters I'd written to her when we were young. The wedding photo from the mantel was on top. Martha in white. Me in a suit I'd borrowed from my father. Both of us, 22 years old and stupid happy. Ethan picked it up. The frame was dusty. This should be upstairs. I know. Dad, this isn't decluttering. This is erasure. He pulled out another box, opened it, more photos. Martha's cookbooks, her Bible, with all her handwritten notes in the margins. She's been hiding Mom, getting rid of any evidence she existed. The furnace kicked on. The ductwork rattled overhead. Somewhere upstairs, Linda was moving around, floorboards creaking. Ethan closed the boxes, picked up the wedding photo. I'm taking this back up. Linda was in the kitchen when we came up. She turned when we entered, saw the photo in Ethan's hands. That's not your decision, she said. It's not yours either. Ethan set the photo back on the mantel, carefully, right where it belonged. This is Dad's house. Mom's house. You don't get to erase her. Linda's face went hard. I've been taking care of your father for 8 years while you were off living your life in Texas. Don't you dare come into my home and... His home, Ethan said. Not yours. The air in the room changed. Got colder, more dangerous. Linda looked at me. Frank, are you going to let him talk to me like this? I looked at Martha's photo, young and smiling and gone 20 years this April, then at Linda, then at my son. Ethan's right, I said quietly. The photo stays. Linda left the room, went upstairs. The bedroom door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Ethan waited until her footsteps stopped. Then he pulled a plastic bag from his pocket. Where are those pills she's been giving you? Tobacco tin. Barn. Behind the vet supplies. I'm taking them to a lab in Omaha. Friend of mine does testing. He headed for the door. Paused. Dad, we're going to prove everything, but I need you to trust me. I do. Then don't take any more of those pills. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Can you do that? Yes. After he left, I stood in the living room looking at Martha's photo. The house settled around me, creaking and shifting, cold seeping through the walls. Upstairs, Linda's footsteps moved back and forth, pacing, planning. Cal came over the next morning. Ethan had called him. The three of us sat in the barn with the door closed and the propane heater hissing in the corner, the smell of hay and leather and diesel fuel. Cal spread a county map across the workbench, pointed to the ranch boundaries. Spring branding's April 15th. That's 8 weeks from now. We make it big. Invite everyone. Bank president, sheriff, county clerk, every rancher within 50 miles. What good does that do, I asked. They'll see you work, see you handle cattle, see you manage 100 head through the chutes and the branding and the doctoring. That's competency nobody can argue with. Ethan leaned over the map. And Derek? Cal smiled, thin, hard. We invite him too. See if he can handle a real rancher's job. The heater ticked as it cycled. Outside, cattle lowed, restless. The sound carried through the barn walls. Linda won't let me send invitations, like I said. She monitors everything, phone, mail, computer. Ethan pulled out his cell phone. Good thing I've got my own phone. Give me the list. I'll handle it. Cal started writing names. James Whitfield, Sheriff Tom Brennan, Doc Martinez, Ruby Hastings, every rancher from here to the county line. People who'd known my father, known my grandfather, people who remembered what the Mercer name meant. This is a public trial, Cal said. Community witnesses. They'll see the truth. And when they do, Derek and Linda won't have anywhere to hide. The three of us stood there in the barn, cold seeping through the walls. Hay dust floating in the shafts of light from the high windows. Planning. For the first time in weeks, I felt something that wasn't fear or confusion. I felt ready. Ruby's Diner hosted a community coffee the following Tuesday. Not unusual. She did them once a month in winter when people needed an excuse to get out of the house and remember they had neighbors. What was unusual was the timing. And who showed up? I wasn't there. Cal said it was better that way. Let people talk freely without worrying about my feelings. Ethan went, sat in a back booth with coffee and a newspaper, listening. He told me about it that night. Ruby had set out coffee urns and sheet cake. 20-some people showed up, farmers mostly, a few of the ranch wives, Tom Henderson, Bill Morrison, the Kowalski brothers who ran cattle north of town, people who'd known my family for generations. Cal Tucker arrived late. On purpose, Ethan said. Waited until everyone was settled and talking. Then he got his coffee and sat at the counter where his voice would carry. Shame about Frank Mercer, Cal said to nobody in particular. Ruby looked up from wiping tables. What about Frank? Oh, just hearing things. People saying he's confused. Can't manage the ranch anymore. Linda's worried about him. The conversation in the diner shifted. People stopped their own discussions. Started listening. I heard that too, Tom Henderson said. Heard he made a scene here last week. Accusations about some survey. That's right. Cal stirred his coffee. The spoon clinked against the mug. Linda and Derek Paulson, they were having lunch. Frank came in all worked up about boundary lines. Derek Paulson, Ruby said slowly. The way you say a name when you're trying to remember something. Isn't he the one who dated Linda back in high school? That's the one. Funny how he's back now, after all these years. Real funny, Cal agreed. Especially since Frank's being called incompetent right when Derek shows up to help manage things. One of the ranch wives, Sarah Kowalski, set down her coffee. They dated, Linda and Derek? Graduated a year apart, Ruby said. I remember because Derek used to come in here after school, always had big plans. Gonna be a developer. Make millions, buy up half the county. She paused. Never did amount to much though, did he? Failed at 3 businesses, Cal said. That I know of. The diner got quiet, except for the coffee percolating and the old radio playing country music. People were thinking, putting pieces together. How old is Frank? Someone asked. 68. My dad's 73, sharp as he ever was, still runs 200 head. My uncle's 81. Does his own books. Remembers every cow by ear tag. Frank Mercer's no different. I saw him at the feed store last month. Knew exactly what supplements he needed. Talked about protein ratios and winter weight gain. Didn't sound confused to me. Cal let it build. Let them talk themselves around to it. Then, you know what's interesting? Derek shows up right when Linda starts talking about Frank's memory problems, almost like it was planned. The diner wasn't quiet anymore. People were murmuring, exchanging looks. Small towns have long memories, and they don't like outsiders trying to pull something. Ethan said he watched it happen in real time. The shift. From pity for Frank to suspicion of Linda and Derek, from believing the worried wife to questioning her motives. Ruby came around the counter. Community branding at the Mercer place in April, right? Like always? April 15th, Cal confirmed. I'll be there, with pie. Ruby looked around the diner. Anyone else? Hands went up, one after another. Tom Henderson, the Kowalskis, Bill Morrison, others. Good, Ruby said. I want to see Frank work. See if he's as confused as Linda says. Ethan drove to Omaha the next day. Took the tobacco tin with 6 white pills in it. His friend ran a private lab that did pharmaceutical testing. Contract work for hospitals and law enforcement. The results came back 48 hours later. Ethan called Cal first. Then they both came to the barn where I was replacing boards in the calving pen. The smell of fresh-cut lumber and old manure. Sawdust on the concrete floor. Diazepam, Ethan said, holding up a printed lab report. Low dose, 2 milligrams per pill, also known as Valium. What's that do? Sedative, anti-anxiety medication, makes you drowsy, foggy, confused, causes short-term memory problems. Ethan's voice was hard. She's been drugging you, Dad, creating the confusion she claims to be worried about. The hammer in my hand felt heavy. I set it down on the workbench. The barn was cold. My breath fogged. How long? I asked. Based on when she started giving you the pills? 3 weeks? Maybe 4? Long enough to convince the doctor, the bank, the town. Cal pulled folded papers from his coat pocket. And I found something else. Went to the courthouse yesterday. Did some digging into Derek Paulson's background. He spread the papers on the workbench. Legal documents. Court filings. Derek Paulson filed for bankruptcy 6 months ago. Chapter 7, total liquidation. He's got creditors from here to Denver, failed real estate investments, bad land deals. He owes $200,000 to various banks and investors. Jesus. There's more. Cal pointed to another document. He formed an LLC in November, High Plains Development Group. Filed with the Secretary of State. Guess what the business purpose is? Land acquisition and development. Ethan looked at the papers. He needs money, fast. And Frank's ranch is worth, what, $3 million? 4? At least. With the cattle and equipment, probably closer to 5. The three of us stood there looking at the documents. The heater ticked. Outside, a cow bellowed. The sound echoed across the frozen pasture. They're desperate, Ethan said quietly. This isn't about love or even greed. Derek's drowning. He needs a big score to save himself. And Linda... He stopped. Linda picked a con man over a stable husband, I finished. Question is, why? Cal gathered up the papers. Maybe she thought Derek was still the big-shot developer he always talked about being. Maybe she didn't know he was bankrupt until after they'd already started this. Doesn't matter now. What matters is we have motive, we have proof of the drugging, we have the forged survey. But proof means nothing if everyone thinks I'm incompetent, I said. That's why we need the branding. Cal folded the papers carefully, put them back in his coat. Public demonstration, 50 witnesses. Let them see you work. Let them see Derek fail. Community verdict is stronger than any court ruling. Ethan picked up this lab report. And after? What happens after the branding? Sheriff makes arrests. Fraud, forgery, elder abuse. Linda and Derek both go down. Cal looked at me. You get your ranch back. Your reputation. Your life. The barn door rattled in a gust of wind. Snow started falling outside. Light at first, then heavier. The beginning of another storm. 8 weeks, I said. April 15th. Me 8 weeks, Cal agreed. Think you can hold on that long? I thought about Martha's photo back on the mantel, about Ethan sleeping in his old room, about cattle that needed tending and land that needed protecting and a name that went back 4 generations. I can hold on. I couldn't sleep that night. Lay in bed next to Linda, listening to her breathe. Steady. Even. She was asleep or pretending to be. Either way, I couldn't stay there. The clock on the nightstand read 11:47 when I got up. I dressed in the dark, jeans, thermal shirt, work coat, moved quiet through the house. The stairs creaked on the third step like they always did. Nobody stirred. Outside, the cold hit hard, maybe 5 degrees, clear sky full of stars. The kind of night where sound carries forever and everything feels too bright under the moon. The barn was warmer. Not warm, but warmer. The propane heater was still running low from evening chores. I turned it up. The flame roared blue and orange behind the grate. Shadows jumped on the walls. I found the branding iron hanging on its hook near the calving pin, my grandfather's iron. The Mercer brand, a simple M with a bar underneath. He'd forged it himself in 1910, taught my father how to use it. My father taught me. I'd taught Ethan when he was 12 years old and determined to help with spring branding. The iron was cold in my hands, heavy. The wooden handle worn smooth by a century of gripping. How many calves had been marked with this? Thousands. Every spring for 115 years. An unbroken line. I sat on a hay bale with the iron across my knees. The heater ticked and hissed. Outside, a coyote called. Far off, lonely sound. 8 years ago, I'd married Linda because I couldn't stand the silence in this house. Martha had been gone 2 years by then. The empty rooms, the empty bed. The sound of my own footsteps echoing. Friends kept saying I should find someone, start over. You're only 60. Too young to be alone. Linda had been working at the bank. Pretty. 20 years younger. She laughed at my jokes, seemed interested in the ranch. In me. We dated for 6 months. She moved in. We got married in a small ceremony at the courthouse. I thought I was starting over, building something new. Instead, I'd invited a thief into my home. The worst part wasn't the money or the land or even the drugs. The worst part was realizing I'd been so desperate to not be alone that I'd let someone erase Martha, put her photos in boxes, hide her memory in the basement, replace her presence with someone who saw me as a mark, a bank account, an easy target. I'd dishonored Martha's memory, dishonored the life we'd built together. And for what? 8 years of pretending I wasn't lonely when I was lonelier than ever? The branding iron caught the heater's light. The M brand gleamed. This iron had marked every calf born on this ranch for over a century. It meant something. Continuity. Legacy. The promise that what you build matters, that it lasts. I'd almost let that slip away. Almost signed papers that would have given everything to people who didn't understand what this land meant, what this brand meant. The barn door rattled. Wind, probably. Or maybe a barn cat. I set the iron down. Walked to the workbench where I'd left Martha's wedding photo earlier. Ethan had brought it out here when Linda kept moving it back downstairs. Said it should be where I could see it while I worked. Martha was smiling in the photo. 22 years old, white dress, flowers in her hair, so young, both of us so young and stupid and hopeful. I'm sorry, I said to the photo, to her, to the empty barn. I should have waited, should have been stronger. I let loneliness make me foolish. The heater flame danced, shadows moved. But I'm fixing it now. I'm fighting back. And I'm going to make sure our land, Ethan's land, stays in the family, where it belongs. The coyote called again, closer this time. I put the photo back on the workbench, picked up the branding iron, hung it back on its hook. Time to honor the land. Time to honor what we'd built. Ethan started sending invitations the next morning. Used his laptop at the kitchen table while Linda was upstairs. The smell of coffee and bacon grease, ice melting off the windows in the morning sun. James Whitfield, Ethan said, typing. Bank president. Done. I poured more coffee. What are you saying? Spring branding at Mercer Ranch, April 15th, 6 a.m. You're invited to help celebrate Frank Mercer's 50th year hosting this tradition. Bring work gloves and appetite. Lunch provided. He looked up. Sound good? Add something about it being my 50th year of ranching, not just hosting. Good call. He typed more. Sheriff Tom Brennan, done. County Clerk, done. Doc Martinez, Ruby Hastings. His fingers moved fast across the keyboard. Every rancher Cal gave me. The Kowalskis, Hendersons, the whole damn county. Derek too? Saved him for last. Ethan grinned, typed. Derek Paulson, Linda tells us you're interested in ranch management. Come see how it's really done. Learn from a master. 6 a.m. sharp. Wear boots you don't mind ruining. That's asking for trouble. That's the point. Linda's footsteps sounded overhead. Walking from the bedroom to the bathroom, water running. The old pipes knocked and rattled. Ethan sent the last emails, closed his laptop. 53 invitations. Most of them will come. Word's already spreading from Ruby's coffee. People are curious. They want to see if you're really as confused as Linda says. And when they see I'm not, Linda and Derek are done. No more credibility, no more scheme. Just two con artists exposed in front of the whole community. The bathroom pipes stopped knocking. Linda's footsteps moved back toward the bedroom. She knows something's happening, I said quietly. Of course she does. We're not hiding anymore. Let her worry. Let her plan. Doesn't matter. In 8 weeks, this is over. Linda came downstairs 20 minutes later, dressed nice, hair done, perfume that smelled like flowers and chemicals. Good morning, she said. Too bright, too cheerful. Her eyes went to Ethan's laptop. Working on something? Just emails, Ethan said. Catching up with folks from work. That's nice. She poured coffee. Her hands were steady, but I saw the tension in her shoulders. Frank, Derek called yesterday while you were in the barn. He wants to come by this week. Look at the cattle records. Make sure everything's in order before spring. Tell him to come to the branding in April. He can see the cattle then. Linda's hand tightened on her coffee mug, just slightly. The branding? April 15th, like always. I didn't know we were doing that this year, with everything going on. We're doing it, I said. Invited the whole county. Going to be the biggest one we've ever had. Her face didn't change, but something happened in her eyes. Calculation. Fear. She knew. Didn't know the details, maybe, but she knew we were planning something. How many people? She asked. 50, maybe 60. That's a lot of people to feed. We'll manage. She set her coffee down. Looked at Ethan, at me, back at Ethan. I should call Derek. Let him know. He'll want to help. Good idea, Ethan said. Tell him to wear old boots. The ones he doesn't mind getting covered in shit. Linda left the kitchen, went into the living room. I heard her voice, low and urgent, on the phone. Ethan waited until she was out of earshot. Then he leaned across the table. She's going to tell Derek. They're going to plan something, try to stop this, or control it somehow. Let them plan. We've got 8 weeks to get ready. And when that day comes? I looked out the window at the pasture. Snow melting in patches, brown grass showing through, the beginning of thaw. They're going to learn what happens when you underestimate a rancher. From the living room, Linda's voice rose slightly. Worried, scared, good. Let her be scared. April 15th came with clear skies and a warm wind from the south. 52 degrees by 6 in the morning. The smell of thawing earth and new grass. Meadowlarks singing from the fence post. Spring finally, after 4 months of winter. Trucks started arriving before dawn. Headlights cutting through the half-light. Diesels rumbling. Doors slamming. Men's voices calling greetings across the yard. The sound of a community gathering for work. I stood on the porch watching them come. Cal Tucker first, then Tom Henderson and his sons. The Kowalski brothers with their dogs. Bill Morrison, Ruby with 2 pies and a carrier. Sheriff Tom Brennan in his personal truck. Off-duty but wearing his badge anyway. Doc Martinez. James Whitfield from the bank, looking uncomfortable in borrowed Carhartt coveralls. 53 people by my count. Neighbors who'd known my father, known my grandfather, come to see for themselves if Frank Mercer was really losing his mind, or if something else was happening. Ethan came out of the barn, leading my horse. Already saddled, the leather creaked. The horse's breath steamed in the cool air. Ready? He asked. Ready. Linda appeared in the doorway behind me. She'd been quiet all morning, watching. Her face was pale under her makeup. This is a lot of people, she said. It's branding day. Always a lot of people. Where's Derek? Not here yet. She went back inside. The screen door banged shut. I mounted the horse. My knee complained. 68-year-old joints don't like cold mornings. But I settled into the saddle like I'd done 10,000 times before. The horse shifted under me, ready to work. Cal rode up beside me on his bay mare. You good? Good as I'll ever be. Remember, let Derek try first. Let everyone see. Derek's truck came up the drive just after 6. New F-250, chrome wheels. He parked away from the working trucks. Got out wearing a brand new Carhartt jacket that still had the store creases. His boots were clean. Morning, Derek, Cal called. Glad you could make it. We need all the help we can get moving these cattle to the pens. Derek looked around at the crowd, at the horses, at the 100 head of cattle gathered in the south pasture. His face did something. Uncertainty, maybe fear. Sure, he said. What do you need me to do? Just help push them toward the corrals. Keep them moving. Easy work. Cal and I hung back. Let Derek walk into the pasture with Tom Henderson and the Kowalski brothers. 53 people watching. Some on horseback, some on foot, all of them quiet, waiting. The cattle were restless. They always are on branding day. They know something's happening. The lead cow, old number 47, been with me for 12 years, started moving away from Derek. He followed. Got too close, moved too fast, she wheeled, lowered her head. 1,200 pounds of protective mother cow. Derek stumbled backward, tripped, fell in the mud. The cow charged. Derek screamed, actually screamed, rolled away and scrambled to his feet, running for the fence. The cow stopped, snorted, went back to her calf. Silence across the pasture. Then someone laughed. A short bark of sound quickly stifled. Derek climbed through the fence rails. His new jacket was covered in mud and manure. His face was red, embarrassed, scared. "Guess cattle work isn't for everyone," Tom Henderson said. I rode forward, gave a low whistle. The old cow turned her head, recognized me. I'd delivered her first calf 8 years ago. Pulled it myself when she couldn't do it alone. I rode slow, steady, talking low. Not words, really. Just sounds. The language between rancher and cattle that takes decades to learn. She let me approach. Let me ride past. Let me position her toward the corrals. The rest of the herd followed. One cow moving, then another, then the whole group flowing like water. My horse knew what to do. I barely touched the reins. Just weight shifts, subtle cues. 50 years of partnership between man and animal. We moved 100 head from pasture to corrals in 20 minutes. Smooth, easy, the way it's supposed to be done. When I rode back to the gate, 53 people were watching. Not talking, just watching. Derek was still by the fence. Mud-covered, silent. James Whitfield from the bank said something to Sheriff Brennan. Brennan nodded, wrote something in a pocket notebook. The branding went smooth, the propane forge roared, the iron heated until it glowed red. That smell, burning hair and hide, the sound of calves bawling, mother cows calling, men working together with the efficiency of people who've done this all their lives. I took the branding iron from its hook, my grandfather's iron. The same one I'd looked at in the barn that midnight 8 weeks ago, the Mercer brand. Simple M with a bar underneath. The iron was heavy and hot and exactly right in my hands. I pressed it to the first calf's hip, the sizzle and smoke, the smell, 5 seconds, clean and quick. The calf jumped up, ran to its mother, the brand clear and perfect on its hide. Ethan worked beside me, catching calves, holding them steady, moving with the rhythm of branding day like he'd never left, like the 8 years away had never happened. By noon, we'd branded 60 calves, vaccinated them, ear-tagged them. The work was almost done. Then one of the Kowalski brothers called from the birthing pen. "Frank, we got a problem." The cow was down, in labor, first-time heifer. The calf was coming wrong. Breech birth, front legs back, head twisted. The kind of birth that kills both mother and calf if you don't know what you're doing. I handed the branding iron to Ethan, walked to the pen, rolled up my sleeves. 53 people gathered around the pin rails, watching. I knelt beside the cow. She was exhausted, straining. Her eyes rolled white with pain. "Easy, girl, easy now." I reached inside, found the calf's front legs, pulled them forward, felt for the head, twisted, pulled. The cow bellowed. My arms were covered in blood and birthing fluid to the elbows. The work took 10 minutes. Felt like an hour. Every movement deliberate, careful. My hands knew what to do, even if my brain was screaming about the audience, about what this meant. The calf came out in a rush, slid onto the straw, wasn't breathing. I cleared its nose, its mouth, rubbed its rib cage hard. Come on, come on. The calf gasped, coughed, took a breath. The mother cow lifted her head, made a low sound. The calf answered. I sat back on my heels. Blood on my hands, sweat on my face despite the cool air, breathing hard. The crowd around the pen was silent. Then Tom Henderson started clapping, slow, steady. Others joined. 53 people applauding in a cattle pen because an old rancher had just saved a calf's life. Derek was nowhere to be seen. Cal Tucker stepped forward while I was washing my hands at the pump. The cold water stung, turned pink with blood. "Everyone," Cal called, his lawyer voice, loud enough to carry. "Before we break for lunch, there's something that needs addressing." The crowd quieted, gathered close. Cal pulled papers from his coat. Last month, Ethan Mercer took some pills to a lab for testing. Pills that Linda Mercer had been giving Frank said they were vitamins, prescribed by Doc Martinez. Doc Martinez shook his head. "I never prescribed anything." The lab results came back. Cal held up the paper. Diazepam, also known as Valium, a sedative, causes drowsiness, confusion, short-term memory problems. Linda Mercer has been drugging her husband to make him appear incompetent. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Linda had been standing near the barn. Now she was walking backward, toward her car. "There's more," Cal continued. "Derek Paulson filed for bankruptcy 6 months ago. He's $200,000 in debt. He and Linda have been conspiring to have Frank declared incompetent so they could take control of this ranch." Sheriff Brennan stepped forward, moved to block Linda's path to her car. "Linda," Cal said. His voice carried across the barnyard, everyone listening. "Who gave Frank those pills? Why did you tell Doc Martinez he was confused when he wasn't?" Linda's face crumpled. Not the pretty, concerned wife tears from the diner. Real tears, ugly, desperate. "Derek said it would be easy," she said, her voice breaking. "He said Frank wouldn't notice, that he'd just sign the papers and we could—" She stopped, looked around at 53 faces watching her, judging her. I thought he was successful. Derek, I thought he had money. He said he'd take care of me. Said we'd develop the land together and you'd what? Sheriff Brennan asked. Steal a man's life? His legacy? Linda put her face in her hands. I didn't think it would go this far. I wanted to not be broke anymore. You wanted what wasn't yours, Cal said flatly. Derek's truck started. He was in the driver's seat, engine running. But Tom Henderson's truck was parked behind him. Cal's on the other side, no way out. Sheriff Brennan walked to Derek's window, tapped on the glass. Turn it off. Derek didn't move. Turn it off or I call for backup and we do this the hard way. The engine died. Derek got out. His clean jacket was still covered in dried mud and cow shit. Linda Mercer, Derek Paulson, Sheriff Brennan said. You're both under arrest for fraud, forgery, and attempted exploitation of an elderly person. The handcuffs clicked. Linda was crying. Derek was silent, his face blank. 53 witnesses watched them get loaded into the sheriff's truck. Ruby turned to me. Frank, you want to tell us what we just saw? I looked at my son, at Cal, at my neighbors gathered in my barnyard. On a spring morning, with the smell of burning hide and new grass, and justice finally served. You just saw the truth, I said. The sheriff's truck pulled away with Linda and Derek in the back, red dust rising behind it on the county road. The crowd watched until it disappeared over the hill toward town. Ruby was the first to move. Well, that was something. She headed for her truck. Pies are in the barn. Help yourselves. Frank's earned it. People started moving again, talking low, processing what they'd seen. Tom Henderson clapped me on the shoulder as he walked past. Said nothing. Didn't need to. James Whitfield from the bank approached, still in his borrowed coveralls. Frank, I owe you an apology. I should have questioned Linda's concerns more carefully. Should have trusted my own judgment. You've been banking with us for 50 years. I know you better than that. You did what seemed right at the time. Still, he shook his head. When you come in next week, we'll reverse everything. Remove Linda from the accounts. Get the loan paperwork straightened out. And Frank, that operating loan, consider it approved. Full amount, whatever terms you want. After he left, Cal came over with Sheriff Brennan. They'd been talking by the barn. Brennan had his notebook out. Frank, I need to explain what happens next, Brennan said. Linda and Derek are being charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, attempted financial exploitation of an elderly person, and unlawful administration of controlled substances. The county prosecutor will handle it from here. With 53 witnesses and the lab results on those pills, this is as open and shut as cases get. What kind of time are they looking at? Depends on the judge. But exploitation of an elderly person is serious. Combined with the drugging, they're each looking at 5 to 10 years. Maybe more. And Cal added, I'll file the injunction first thing Monday. Blocks any claims Linda might make on the property. Nullifies that power of attorney she tried to get you to sign. The ranch is secured, legally, completely. Doc Martinez walked up while they were talking. Frank, I need to apologize too. When Linda called about memory concerns, I should have pressed harder. Asked you directly. Instead, I just noted it in your chart and assumed she knew what she was talking about. It's done, I said. They fooled a lot of people. That was the plan. Still, he pulled out a prescription pad, wrote something, tore it off, and handed it to me. This is for a full cognitive screening. Take it to the clinic in Omaha. Get yourself tested properly. Not because I think there's a problem. Because I want documentation that there isn't. Something official for the record. The paper was warm from his pocket. I folded it and put it in my coat. Thanks, Doc. And Frank, he paused. Your hands were steady as hell pulling that calf. I watched. No tremor, no hesitation. You've got years left in you yet. After they left, the crowd started to thin. People had their own ranches to get back to, their own work, but they came by one at a time before they left. Shook my hand, said they were glad, said they knew I was fine, said they should have spoken up sooner. By 3 o'clock, only Ethan and Cal remained. We stood in the barnyard while the spring sun warmed our backs and the smell of fresh earth rose from the thawing ground. You did good today, Cal said. Both of you. Couldn't have done it without you. That's what neighbors are for. He climbed into his truck, paused with the door open. Frank, you need anything at all, you call, day or night. I will. After Cal left, Ethan and I walked back to the birthing pen. The new calf was standing now, wobbly but steady, nursing from its mother. The cow licked its head, that low rumbling sound mother cows make. Needs a brand, Ethan said. I retrieved the iron from where I'd set it after the morning's work. Still warm, I fired up the propane forge again. The blue flame roared, heated the iron until it glowed. You want to do it? I asked. Ethan shook his head. We do it together. We moved the calf away from its mother, just long enough. Ethan held it steady. I pressed the brand. 5 seconds. The sizzle and smoke. The Mercer mark clean and clear on its hide. The calf jumped up and ran back to its mother. Ethan and I stood there watching. The brand was perfect. A century-old mark on a brand new life. Dad, Ethan said, I've been thinking about moving back, opening a veterinary practice in town. Large animals. Ranch calls, the kind of work that's needed out here. My chest got tight. What about your job in Texas? I can find another job. Can't find another father. Can't find another home. He looked at the ranch, the pastures rolling away toward the horizon, the barn, the house. This is where I belong. I should have come back years ago. Your room's still there. I know, and I'm going to fill it. He smiled. If that's okay with you. I put my hand on his shoulder. Couldn't speak for a moment. Finally, more than okay. We hung the branding iron back on its hook. The barn was quiet, the heater off now, spring warm enough that we didn't need it. Through the open door, I could see the pasture, green grass pushing through the brown, the creek running full with snowmelt, cattle grazing in the afternoon sun, the new calf staying close to its mother, the brand fresh on its hip, Ethan's truck parked by the house. Not just visiting, staying. Spring's here, Ethan said. About damn time. We walked back to the house together, father and son, the land stretching out around us, safe, secured, ready for whatever came next. Behind us, a meadowlark sang from a fence post, clear and bright and full of promise. A week later, I'm sitting on the porch with my morning coffee. The sun's just clearing the eastern pasture. Warm now, 60 degrees by 7 in the morning. The smell of earth and new grass and cattle and home. The meadowlarks are back, singing from every fence post. That sound I've been hearing since I was a boy. The sound that means winter's finally done and the land's coming back to life. Ethan's truck is parked by the barn. He's inside fixing a water line that froze and burst back in January. The sound of his work, hammering, the rasp of a saw, carries across the yard. Good sounds. The sounds of someone staying, not just visiting. You spend 68 years building something. Land, reputation, family, and you learn some things. You learn that it can be stolen by people you trust, or protected by people who remember who you are. Linda thought I was too old to fight. Derek thought ranchers were stupid. They both thought silence meant surrender, but silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's just a man taking his time, watching, waiting, choosing his ground. Some legacies are written in blood and soil and firebrands, written in the brand marks on cattle that'll carry them their whole lives, written in the spring grass and the thaw and the calves being born. And some men will burn it all down before they let thieves take what's not theirs to steal. If you're 60, 70, 80, and someone's calling you confused, incompetent, past your prime, ask yourself this: who benefits if you believe them? Your land, your mind, your dignity. They're not up for negotiation, and if someone tries to take them, well, spring always comes. Debts always get paid. And a man who knows his land, who knows his cattle, who knows his worth, that man's a lot harder to break than people think. I drain my coffee, stand up, time to check the fence line. Ethan waves from the barn door. I wave back. The meadowlarks sing. The land waits, and I've got work to do.